Hello friends, in this video we'll create API controller classes as well as we'll create API needed methods. Back to editor. Inside last video we had created migration files and created tables inside database. Back to slide. So as we had discussed inside second phase of API development that we'll have two modules, that is a student module and a project module. Now we need two controller class files. The first controller file, something called student controller, will contain all the methods of student module. And in the second module, that will be for the project, we'll create project controller which will contain all the methods needed for project based APIs. So back to terminal. So here we'll create two controller classes and all those controller classes should go inside API folder. So let's say PHP Artisan make controller. Next I will need to pass the API controller folder name, so it should be API, and inside API folder I want the first controller class should be student controller. If I press enter, now I can see that student controller.php file has been created inside controllers and API folder. Now let's repeat this step to create our second controller file, and we need inside API folder called project controller. Press enter. Now second controller class also created. Back to editor. Go inside app, http controllers, API folder, and here we have our two controller classes. Let's open student controller. Inside this controller class we need all the methods that will be responsible to create student. It means student registration, student login, student profile and student logout. Back to editor. So here let's say public function, and I will name it as register method. By the help of that we'll create a student and save inside our database. So here this is all about student register. This method will hit using post request type and also will pass form data. So we can receive form data using request object. So inside this register method, let's pass request and I will pass a request object. So this is all about the method declaration of register method. Now let's define another method that will be for login. Student login. This method will hit using post request type and also the email address value and the password will send inside form data. So this method also contains form data. So public function login, and inside this login I need to pass request object. Now next let's define two more methods, that is for profile and logout. So here it will be student profile and we hit this method using get request type. So public function and let's say profile, and the final method we need inside this student controller, and that will be logout. So student logout. This method again we hit using get request type. So public function logout. So successfully we have now all the methods that we need for student module: register method, login method, profile method and logout method. Let's move to project controller. Now in this controller class we need the methods for add project. This method we hit using post request type and pass form data. Along with this method we need project list, get single project details method and delete project method. Back to editor. So here add project. This method we hit using post request type and also we pass form data. So public function and let's call it as add project. Inside this add project method we need to pass request object. So this is all about add project method. Now next public function. Next we need the method for project list by student ID. It means we will pass a student ID and on the behalf of that we'll list all the projects. So this ID actually we can pass in format of token. The token what we generate after student login will pass inside this API. So this API will hit using get request type, and this student ID will pass in format of token. It means Sanctum token inside header. Back to editor. So this is all about public function. Let's say get project list, and here let's say student projects, and this method we hit using get request type. Now next we have something get single project details. So single project details, this method we hit using get request type. So public function get single project. Now finally we need all about for delete project API method. So here let's say delete project, public function delete project, and this method also we hit using delete request type. And one more thing for this get single project method and delete project, that while calling these methods we need to pass project ID into URL. So here after getting project ID from URL we can then retrieve the single project details. Also, as we know, to access all these APIs means these APIs are protected. So whenever we call these methods, we need to pass the Sanctum token value inside header. So inside this method, we'll have two values. First is all about token from header and the second project ID from URL. By the help of this ID, we'll retrieve the project details from project database table. Now while calling this delete project, also we need to pass project ID into URL. Once we find that this project exists on the behalf of student token inside table, so on the behalf of that, finally we'll find and delete that. So successfully, this is all about configuration, or we may say this is all about methods declaration inside our two controller classes. That is, first one was student controller and project controller. In the next video, we'll see some more development concept. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.